Biggly Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street has served 3 generations of shoppers since 1955 as the largest locally owned independent grocery store in the area. The Joseph family owners grew up here, so you know they're invested in the community. They provide the biggest variety of choice meats, the freshest produce, an in-house deli bakery, great wine selection, and more of your favorite brands. Every purchase gives you gasoline points so you can save at our pumps. Order online for pickup at bigglypigglywiggly.com. Biggly Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street. No one beats the pig.
The opinions expressed on Scoop Squad Truth Pod are those of the hosts and the guests and not those of WVRC Media. The Scoop Squad Truth Pod, copyright 2024. Scoop Squad Truth Squad, LLC.
Welcome to the Valentine edition of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. It's been such a lovely day. It was a beautiful day outside. You guys aren't hearing this the day after Valentine, but...
Right. Who knows what the weather will be like when you're actually hearing this.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be nice.
Should be, up until Friday.
Yeah. So I haven't come up with that catchy phrase, that I'm going to use every time I come on the air.
This is the only podcast that matters. How about that?
Oh. Hashtag, that's right. That has been our phrase since the beginning.
Right. We just don't say it enough. We print it on social media.
Welcome to the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. Hashtag the only Charleston, West Virginia podcast that matters.
Love.
And I stole that from The Clash, who were known as the only rock and roll band that matters.
Oh, I did not know that.
Because they were very socially aware, and
okay.
a lot of their songs were, based on social issues.
So were they like a long ago group?
80s.
In the 70s and 80s.
80s, yeah.
It was
Okay.
Part of the punk era.
Oh, I was not allowed to listen to
No, you would have been too young, and you'd not have been allowed to be exposed to the Clash or the Sex Pistols or the Ramones.
And I was not allowed to go see Purple Rain.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I would have not let you go with that either.
I was not allowed. Anyways.
What's your name?
Who, me? Hey, I'm Ashley.
Oh, and I'm Ron.
And we have in the studio with us, we have someone, okay, so JB Akers is here.
He's our staff attorney.
And since it's Valentine's Day, I brought everybody some conversation hearts. And I chose them especially for you guys. So I'm going to read.
Based on our personalities?
Yeah. Based on.
This makes me nervous already.
Right.
I haven't been here since last summer.
I know.
I haven't been here since it's been like 6 or 8 months.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hence the conversation heart that says miss you.
Oh, well, that's nice of you.
And then the other conversation heart says you're awesome because today you were awesome on the house floor.
It depends on your perspective.
You killed it. It was amazing.
Well, I know Mike Pushkin does not think you're awesome. But
no comment.
Yeah, so that's okay. And then also Rockstar. Because you were a rock star today, too.
There you go.
I was able to listen to you on the House floor talking about the Women's Bill of Rights, and a lot of the Democrats spoke up in opposition, which
I think they all did.
They weren't even making any sense. Their argument was not even making any sense.
I'm not going to say negative things about them. I
know.
get along with a lot of those folks.
That's my job.
Yeah, I can help you with that.
That's my job. But then JB comes on. I'm like, well, screw City Hall. He don't need City Hall. Like he's right where he needs to be.
He's bigger than that.
So there you go.
I'll take those.
Okay. And then for Elisa is one of our sponsors. She's also has become somewhat of an activist.
Right.
Isn't
A
that
contributor.
crazy?
It is weird.
Activist contributor.
And a contributor. So my heart's for you. They say goals. One of them says goals because,
Gotta have goals to be an activist.
You're my goals. I want to be you. Let's hang because we need to hang out.
We do.
A little bit more. We do the political stuff, but we don't.
Not much social.
And then BFF.
Aw, love you.
I love you. And then I got some for Ryan back there. Hey, Ryan, can you chime in real quick? Can I hear you real quick? Ryan. Oh. Where are you going? He got it from his chair. He's putting headphones on. Sorry, Ryan.
He was trying to ignore us. Ryan doesn't listen to what we're saying.
That way he can turn on his microphone.
He doesn't. Oh.
If he turn, he can.
Gosh, I'm going to take my
Ryan's
hearts
probably
back.
watching YouTube videos back there.
He can hear it through the speakers, but to open the microphone, he's got to have headphones on.
Okay, so Ryan, my hearts for you say, you're the best, because you are. You're the best guy back there. You know, you do this every Wednesday, and I'm so appreciative. And the other one for you says date night, because this is our date night every Wednesday.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to give
Ryan's
you yours.
like, that's awkward, but okay.
No. It is Valentine's Day. I mean, that's all about. It's what it's all
You
about.
need to be mushy a little bit, right?
It's love and mush and awkwardness. And Ron, my heart.
Best for last.
Yes, my heart's for you. Say only you, because you are the only executive producer for me.
Oh, thank you.
But
nobody else is volunteering for the job.
Ron's the one constant in this show, along with you, Ashley.
He is.
Yeah, it's you two.
He has been. We've been, here since day one, and we'll be here. Guess what? The next conversation heart says, forever.
Forever.
Yeah, and the last one is. The last one says LOL, because I'm constantly sending you LOL at your jokes that I'm not really laughing at, But
you don't think my jokes are funny?
But I'm typing LOL because I just want you to feel good about yourself.
Thank you.
Supported.
Thank you.
I love you.
Well, I love you too.
Here's your heart. Okay. All right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
That was
super sweet.
I like all the holidays. All right, so JB, we have missed you because I don't really know how to address you now. Are you honorable? Are you
delegate?
It's just JB.
Yeah, but how? I really do want to know. How do you address a House of Delegates member?
If you're talking to somebody else, you would call them honorable
Okay.
or delegate, either one.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I like honorable.
The protocol is if they're addressing each other on the floor, they should say honorable.
Yes. So I asked you here because today I thought was a great day. It was a great day. Tell us why, Lisa. Lisa's here with us too.
The House passed 52-43, the women's rights bill. And it was amazing to watch. I really wanted to go down, but being as I have a gift store.
Was that introduced by our friend Kathy Hess-Krause, if I remember right?
It was.
Okay. And she's been on the show before. She's a great friend of the show.
Yeah, I want to have her back. I thought it might have been too late notice to have to call her.
Well,
and
we
expect
could.
her to come back.
Well, we'll see if it passes
in the Senate.
The Senate and gets signed, and then we could have her on.
So,
or if there's some, or if there's some controversy over it in the Senate, we could have her on to talk about it as soon as next week, even.
JB, tell us about this bill, because there was a lot of rhetoric going around with the Democrats calling it disingenuous and saying that it was going to take away, instead of protect women's rights, going to actually take away women's rights. I mean, there was a lot of talk, which I think that's pretty much all it was. But tell us what this bill really does.
So, I mean, this was not quoted. I'm doing air quotes. This was not my bill. It was introduced by Ms. Krause, who's a delegate. She's up for election this year, and I like her. She seems like a real nice lady. I mean, we don't hang out together, but I like.
She's a great lady. I've worked with her. Well, this past election and the one before that.
Yeah, I like Kathy. So she introduced the bill. And one of the things the Democrats pointed out today was that it was a bill that's been modeled after legislation in other states, which, I mean, that's not weird or abnormal.
Right.
I mean,
that happens all the time.
Yeah, there are delegates around the country or groups who draft quote unquote model legislation. The Democrats rely upon that themselves. They'll send legislation around to each other. So that was talked about today as if that was some sort of evil taboo. That happens all the time.
Right.
So Kathy got this bill. The governor actually was also instrumental in making this happen. So let's give Jim Justice credit. He's actually the one who brought in some women. One of them was Riley Gaines,
right, who
was a swimmer from the University of Kentucky. People remember her name. She was an excellent, All-American swimmer in college. Who was? I'm not going to make the whole discussion about this, but this is how the bill came about. She was beaten in the NCAA swimming finals by a biological male who self-identified as a female. No changes whatsoever physiologically, just decided he was a woman and beat Riley Gaines along with other women. So Riley began a campaign basically saying this is unfair. And it's nothing personal against this other individual. But this was not, his or her space, however you want to define it. This was a woman's space, and we worked hard our entire lives as 5-year-old girls. We were in the pool swimming, and then you can be the 400-plus ranked male college swimmer, and then the next day you call yourself a female and you're the number one female swimmer in the country.
Right. And they worked for this all their lives, and all of a sudden the rules change.
It's inherently unfair. Okay, I don't care.
Yes.
And again, this has nothing to do, and I said this on the floor today, the first transgender person I met as a professional was over 20 years ago. I met a transgender lawyer, and biological male, but identified as a woman, always called her a woman, was respectful to her. She was a respectful professional person. Never had, I liked her, and I still call her a woman today, regardless whether folks may do. That's not the kind of situation we're talking about, and that's not what this bill was meant to address. So you did have an outside group that brought this bill in and suggested legislation. The governor proposed it. The legislature took it up. Kathy was the sponsor on it. And what the bill does is it proactively, from this point forward, as a matter of public policy in the state of West Virginia, it's bizarre we had to do this, I think, defines what a man and a woman are, right? Which we all know what that is inherently. But because, and this is one of the examples I gave today, and to me, this is one of the deal breaker arguments that there can be no rational response to. If you buy into this one, to me, I think it's a loser from the other side. It's gotten to the point where it's not just about whether we accept someone like the transgender lawyer I knew, which I did, which is fine. I had no issue with that. But we now have biological male sex offenders who are self-identifying as women with no changes whatsoever to their anatomy. In other states, they are being housed in female prison populations. And in New Jersey, I talked about this last week when the bill's in second reading, there's a female inmate in New Jersey who alleges that she was raped by a biological male sex offender who was housed in her prison population, and she's now sued the state of New Jersey. And that's not the only time that's happened across the country. So, there's times where we can identify that vulnerable women are, again, it's not an ideological thing as to whether or not we think transgender is right, wrong, or in between.
Right.
There are women who are being exposed to legitimate dangers. And then you have, this Women's Bill of Rights went to our public health section of our code, or will if it passes. And I consider female sports to be a public health issue as well. It's not just entertainment. For our girls, it's a public health issue just in terms of their safety, but also their growth and development, and how they evolve into young women and how they remain healthy in life, and they set goals for themselves and they become mentally healthy and physically healthy, and their spaces are important too. And one of the things I also said on the floor today is, Democrats, 50 years ago were right to push for Title IX.
Right.
They were right to do that. At the time, maybe conservatives didn't like it because they considered it big government, but that was something as a piece of federal legislation that gave women rights that they should have had and didn't, and it created opportunities for our daughters they wouldn't otherwise have.
Right.
Okay, so
that was needed.
It was a needed piece of legislation, and now that legislation is being turned on its head.
Yeah.
Because if you self-identify as a woman, then you can take a space away from a
real woman,
a biological woman.
Regressive,
and so it is regressive. And again, this has nothing to do with whether or not we are being respectful and decent towards a transgender person, but women have those spaces for a reason. So on the floor today, one thing I said was, to my friends on the left, the Democrats sat to the left of me in the House chamber. So ironically or coincidentally, I say my friends on the left for two reasons, because they are there on the left. To my left, and their position on the issues is to the left. I said to my friends on the left, number one, will you stand up on this floor, instead of talking about what bad people Republicans are, will you stand up on the floor and take ownership for biological male sex offenders being housed in female prisons? Will you say that's acceptable? And will you say that women's sports should just be an open classification? They should be playing against biological men. We no longer have classification based on sex, which means Title IX no longer matters. Will you stand up and say that? And I said, if you say those things, I will disagree with you, but at least we'll respect your consistency in your argument. It's almost like I've always said, like if someone says they're a vegetarian and I shouldn't be a hunter, if they really are a vegetarian, I can respect that. But if someone says they don't like hunting, but they still go eat a steak, I'm like, I don't really care what your opinion is, right?
Right.
So anyway, so on this issue, I said, at least be consistent in your argument. But if you will agree with me that a male sex offender shouldn't be in a female prison, then your entire argument falls apart. Yeah. Because if you're willing to make that one exception and say, well, that's too far, well, then you're admitting that men and women aren't the same. And that was another big issue today. The Democrats said, well, this bill takes away equality. And it says, there's one line in the bill, I'm going to paraphrase it, basically says, Equal does not mean the same or identical with regard to equal rights. What that clearly means is that people still have equal rights under the law regardless of your sex, but that men and women, as we all sit here looking at each other, 2 men and 2 women, one little boy, men and women are not identical. And I pointed out we have equal rights under the law, but we're not identical in the way that we're made physiologically. So I pointed out several other statutes today that are designed to provide benefits and privileges to women specifically. There's a Prescription Fairness Act we have in the law that has some provisions that are geared solely towards women's health. We have a Pregnancy Fairness Act that obviously is geared towards women's health. We have some pay amendments or some pay statutes that are geared towards women and making sure they're not discriminated against. The Human Rights Act, which is another thing we talk about that came up on the floor today. So we have specific.
So why are those needed if we're identical?
If we're identical, if you're going to argue that we're identical, then those provisions of law are weakened, if not just meaningless. So
equal, saying that we're not equal, that we're not identical, just means that there's disparity between the sexes.
Well, that's another thing that happened.
Right? I mean,
that there's
clearly
differences.
there's
you almost feel like you're crazy because I'm looking right now at 2 women while I'm having this discussion, and you're looking at me, and we're not the same.
Yeah,
we have equality.
Yeah,
but there's differences between us.
Yes,
and another thing that came up today is that one of the things the Democrats did last week is. They pushed for an amendment that essentially was a complete rewrite of the Women's Bill of Rights because they said if we're going to call this a Women's Bill of Rights, it should contain all this other stuff in the law to protect women.
Right.
When this bill was designed to do one thing and one thing only, which was going forward proactively say this is what a man and a woman are within our code. So if we have departments or agencies who need to create sex-based policies, they can do that as long as it's otherwise legal.
Well, I like that point that you made today. Not every law or bill is meant to solve every issue. Well, it is for a specific need. Well,
that's why I led today. I try to bring my receipts when I have these, talks. When I'm talking on the floor, I want to sound like I know what I'm talking about. I said just yesterday we voted on something called the Teacher's Bill of Rights.
Yes.
That was great.
But it only dealt with a few specific issues with regard to educators and counselors. It wasn't a quote-unquote comprehensive bill because you can't make a bill that solves every issue.
Right.
So our Teacher's Bill of Rights yesterday dealt with a few specific issues, and it passed 100-0. Not one Democrat voted against it, and not one of them said, hey, this isn't a real Bill of Rights. It doesn't address every issue in code, and I'm going to vote against this because it's fake. We all voted for it. And then we get to the Women's Bill of Rights.
Well, we all know why they vote. We all know why the argument changes is because there's an activist and there's an activist agenda.
Well, you couldn't. That's because ultimately they didn't want to talk about some of the examples I gave, like whether men should be in women's prisons, because then that's when they'll have a problem.
Right.
Even among a lot of their own voters.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I'll say this last. I'm dominating the conversation here.
No,
but
that's why I asked you here.
Part of that amendment they made last week was a complete overhaul. But then one thing that stayed in was this is the wrong terminology, but it's called the marital rape exception.
Right. Where someone can be charged with rape even though they're married.
Well,
right?
Yeah. Well, so here's what that is. There are still certain instances of sexual contact between between a married couple that would be illegal in another setting but are legal within a marriage. Now, it's not quote-unquote rape. And as a matter of fact, there's no crime in West Virginia called rape. It's either sexual assault or sexual abuse.
Okay.
But an example I always give is if I walked into a bar and I grabbed a random woman on the backside and I don't know her and she doesn't want me to touch her, that's a crime. That's a sex crime. If I walk into a bar and do that to my wife, I grab her on the backside through her pants and she's mad at me and doesn't want me touching her, that's probably not going to be a crime the way the law is written because there is a married exception. Now, forcible compulsion of sexual intercourse is a crime regardless. So I've always been bothered when people say rape's legal in marriage. It's not. If you do what we all would define as quote unquote rape, which is forcible compulsion involving intercourse, even if you're married, that's a crime.
Right.
But this amendment was made last week that was put in the Women's Bill of Rights so that essentially any sex crime, it doesn't matter if you're married or not, and that's fine. I mean, obviously no objection to that change. So like any sexual contact, even if it's over the clothing now, would not be permissible in marriage if it's unwanted. So the Democrats.
So that was the Democrat amendment that stayed in.
That was the portion of their amendment that stayed in. They also tried to amend some other things in, but that's the one portion that Republicans said, "Fine, we'll stick that in there."
So did they all vote against their own? They all vote against that today?
Well, they did, but the reason why I think that was even more important is I stood up on the floor and I said, "We inserted a portion of your all's amendment last week, and it dealt with the disparity in the power dynamic that we all know exists within most marriages. Not that some women aren't stronger than some men. I mean, some are, but
there's always exceptions.
As a general rule, most men physiologically are stronger than most women. And the reason why the Democrats won that amendment, it was a recognition of that disparity in the power dynamic. And I said, why do we need this amendment if all men and all women are the same?
Well, exactly.
Like the amendment's unnecessary. So even within this argument we're having today, your position is completely inconsistent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So that stayed in.
So just to clarify, they voted against their own amendment.
Well, they did. I mean, but listen, I'm not one of these who. Some of them, not all of them. Some of those Democrats in that House are good, decent people, and I like them. There's a couple I don't know that well. Maybe one I'm not a huge fan of because now I'm not going to say
but you don't have to say it, but I will, because listening to Mike Pushkin today on the floor just absolutely ripped this piece of legislation and feign concern for women.
It was such an act.
Everybody that knows Mr. Pushkin knows that was a joke and knows he has spat in women's faces.
I'm not going down that road.
No, you don't have to.
I've got to go back to work with these people tomorrow. But I'm just going to say, some of them, some people want to be totally partisan on these issues. Some of those Democrats, if you have private conversations with them, I really like some of them. I really like some of them are really good people.
And I can call out a name because I talked to Hollis Lewis.
Yeah, I was surprised. He was one that I was surprised
speaking at a public hearing, and he is a great guy.
He is a great guy
with family values.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed
which is why
being.
I was surprised at the things that he was saying. That clearly was just him, doing what he was told to do,
and
which
he's
is
in a bad way.
No. I don't think he was told to do anything.
You don't think he was persuaded to vote with them?
No. I mean, I think they all probably talked, and I think they all probably said they would stand up in opposition and solidarity. That's my guess. I don't know that. But he's not going to do anything he thinks is wrong. I think.
And plus, he was he wasn't voted, but a Democrat was voted into that position.
Right.
He's representing the values of the people that voted
on that side
into that position. Like, I respect that.
No, I don't think. I think that there are Democrats, and I think Hollis is one of them that really believe in this bill. But
well,
that's what I think.
Yeah, I can't say. I'm not going to talk for him. But again.
I don't think it's a Democratic. I don't think it should be a Democrat-Republican issue.
Well,
it should be.
It was closer.
It's about safety and for our
the vote was
girls.
closer. I guess the vote tally was closer than the amount of differences between the Republicans and Democrats in the House. Is that right? Was it 52 to 43?
On what issue?
On the
Women's Bill of Rights.
Women's Bill of Rights. Oh no, there was only one Republican who voted against it.
Okay.
No. It was almost Republicans were almost unanimous, and this is important. I said this at the very end of my talk on the floor. I said one important thing to remember is, I said I don't speak for any women, and I didn't in there. I was speaking for myself, and the vote hadn't happened yet, and I couldn't make a guarantee.
Amazing.
But I said I'm willing, whatever I said, one to bet, or I'm confident that more women who belong to this House today will vote for this bill than will vote against it.
And that was true.
That was true. Okay. And so, we have a lot of House members who are women.
So it wasn't a very close vote.
No.
Okay.
It was 55 to 12 or something.
It was all the Democrats voted against it and one Republican. So you have
100.
What do we have? We have 10 Democrats.
12, I think it was.
There was 12 Democrats, right?
Okay.
To whatever.
I should know the answer to that question, but I have a brain cloud right now.
It's okay.
And there was something else I wanted to say when JB, we were talking about the jails and these men being in the jails. It's not just the jails. Like, there have been incidents across this country in high schools where boys are identifying as girls, going into the girls' restrooms and sexually assaulting these girls. So it's not even just happening to adults; it's happening to our children.
Well, that's one thing. Also, I didn't bring this up on the House floor because I don't think this is the main issue. But this has also been conflated into a gay rights issue.
Right.
When you'll have someone who self-identifies as a woman but still is attracted to women. I know that some people would say, "Well, that still means they're gay." I'm like, well, this is still a biological male who's attracted to women, and teenage boys who are attracted to teenage girls should not be in the bathroom with them.
Right.
And there's some
100%.
physical differences during sex that make that a problem.
Yeah.
That's not just a straight on girl
And
situation.
listen, and that does not mean that everyone who's transgender is going to commit a
Absolutely
crime.
not.
They're not all dangerous people,
Right.
obviously, but I mean, common sense. I mean, again, this is not something that's like a tradition that Republicans are suddenly trying to overturn.
Right.
This is something that with 10 years ago, even 12 years ago, would have been unheard of in most places. And this is what happens. And I've said it before. There's some activism on the right, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
There's activism on the left. This is being pushed by the activist class.
Right.
The average American is not in agreement with
100%.
this. And the vast majority of West Virginians in particular are not in agreement with it.
No, and when I went up for the public hearing, I walked out of the bathroom at the State House, and a boy in a skirt was walking in. Like, it's unnerving, and I'm 58 years old. Like, I'm whatever, but I don't want my daughter coming up to the State House unattended and having that happen to her. Like, I just don't feel comfortable with that. So it was.
I'm surprised that the men and boys feel comfortable doing that. That's surprising to me. And they were also bringing up some arguments that I thought were just silly. Like, is this going to keep the mother of the 2-year-old son, from taking her child, caring for her child?
It's not going to eliminate common
None
sense.
of that will change.
Exactly.
I mean, if it's not illegal now, it won't be illegal.
And basically, it's just saying that our state can't do what the Biden administration is doing, and Harry Carey changed the word sex into whatever
you want it to
they
mean.
want it to be.
Yeah.
And sex is sex.
Well, now we're changing the
male
word equal. They're accusing us of changing the word equal, and it was
It's
just all
probably a
kinds
good
of-
time to take a break.
Well, we got 5 minutes.
Oh, we got 5 minutes?
Yeah, he just gave me the. He's in here. He's got me.
Okay, I'll let him run it. I won't.
Okay, but I wanted to ask JB a little bit about, like, have you authored any bills, or is there anything that you would like to see from your perspective, and also, like, how is it? How is it up there?
I'm glad you asked that question. Obviously, we came in and we're talking about this issue today, but my main issue is the economy and jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying these other issues aren't important. They are. Like this woman's Bill of Rights, I think, is an important issue. But some people, and this is one of the things that bothers me, is I'll get emails from some people who are in opposition to this, and they're like, "You are wasting our time. Won't you actually get something done?" And I'm like, there are days like yesterday. I can't remember. I think we passed. I think it was 8 bills out of the House yesterday. I could be wrong. I'm losing track of my days. And almost all of them were unanimous. I mean, actually, the Democrats will usually vote with the Republicans on almost everything. And if there's anyone who presses no, it'll be some of the Republicans because they have some particular issue with the bill. But most of this stuff we pass up there, almost everyone agrees to.
Yeah.
And we have actually passed quite a few things. I've heard some people saying we haven't passed enough bills. And my view personally is I don't think we should be up there trying to make as many laws as possible.
Right.
That's not the goal.
It should be hard to pass a law.
But we've done a lot of things that they're not clickbait. Nobody will read a story about them, but we passed a bill recently that makes it so that if you have dentures, that doesn't count against your copay or deductible, and that's covered under your insurance. And that's a really small thing, but that's going to be really important to somebody out there, right?
Absolutely.
Well, as our population's aging,
Yeah,
it
right.
should be.
I mean, so
very
I'm
important.
just using that one as an example.
Yeah, so what else? Tell us more.
Well, but we've passed some things for economic development. We've passed some things, some school related stuff. We have quite a few actual Republican teachers in our house.
Mm-hmm.
So they're passing some good common sense education stuff, including for public school teachers. This isn't all like private charter school stuff. It's things that are good for public school teachers.
Which I am.
Yes. So we actually do pass a lot of good things that Democrats even agree with us on, that everybody agrees on.
Right.
So we're actually getting a lot of work done, but the things that get the media attention are things like today.
Right.
And then people are like, "Oh, this is all you're doing." I'm like, "That is not. Trust me."
That's all that's getting covered.
And it's all negative coverage. There is never one single coverage that it shows any positive
So
light on
even after
anything.
today, with all the rhetoric and the anger, will people be different? Like with the Democrats, they still work with you and they'll just put this behind them?
It just depends on the issue. I mean, so today I had to go to. I mean, we had a full afternoon.
Not that you need them, but
but I'd rather get along with them.
Sure.
I mean, they represent people
in the state.
I mean, you brought up Hollis Lewis, who I like on a personal level. He represents 18,000 people in Kanawha County.
Absolutely.
His constituents deserve to have things get done. We shouldn't marginalize or exclude him because that hurts his constituency, and those are our friends and neighbors.
Absolutely.
So I do want to work with guys like Hollis to get things done. And so today, after we had House Floor and Judiciary, and when I was racing around, we had a Kanawha County delegate meeting only. And Kanawha County is one of the few places where you've got a lot of Democrat legislators left still, right?
Right.
So I had to go in a room and sit at a table.
That's interesting.
So I had to sit at a table with people who probably were like, shooting laser beams at me earlier in the day from the House floor.
Yeah.
But we had to talk about the Kanawha County fairs and festivals and try to make sure those all get funded appropriately. And we had to work together to make sure that everybody got the money they deserve for that stuff. So you have to get those things done and set things aside, like whether they like me or not, or vice versa. And I did like the people in that room, by the way.
I can promise you.
Well, and especially whose seat you took was not quite as a strict Republican as you are.
Yes.
Well, they're probably a little bit used to more flexible.
Oh, I guarantee you, they were not used to JBA.
You don't need to say that, but I'm just saying that.
I like that guy a lot, and he was. I think he was good at getting things done. I mean, people have different views and perspective on things. And he was also mainly a jobs and economy guy, which that is me. I mean, I would rather be talking about those issues.
Sure.
Because I do think that's what helps bring the state or get the state forward.
But protecting our girls, that's an important issue.
Well, it is. I fought for that today. This is one of the few counties again where there are going to be people who think I'm on the wrong side of the issue. Like if I was a legislator in Mineral County or somewhere like that, then probably 90+% of people would say right on. Mm-hmm. Here in Kanawha County, there are going to be people who aren't happy with me for that. But I thought it was the right thing to do, and I'm always honest. Like there were some other votes earlier this session I took where there were some Republicans who weren't happy with me. There was one issue in particular I won't get into, but I spoke about in the House floor, and I was one of the few Republicans who sided with the Democrats because I said, hey, I think they're right on this one. Now, most of the Republicans... You want to
tell us what that was?
Well, that was do we have time to do it?
Yeah.
That was a bill where it involved school safety officers.
Okay.
And we're creating a new classification of school safety officers, another good piece of legislation that passed with almost universal support because a lot of these schools don't have access to a school resource officer, which is an actual law enforcement officer. So they'll have the ability now, if it passes the Senate and the governor signs it, to hire retired military, for example, to work as a school safety officer. And part of that bill contained provisions for what their training may involve. These weren't requirements, but what their training may involve. And one of the permissive training requirements was they would be trained on, I think I'm going to get this exactly right, systemic individual racism,
I remember that.
Implicit bias, and there was, I think maybe cultural diversity.
You guys, you took out systemic.
Well, there was an amendment to take out systemic and individual racism and just leave racism in. So even with the amendment, it was still good, and no Democrat really should have been mad about it because they could still be trained on racism. But what I said with regard to that, and listen, I'm not a fan of the claim. I mean, America is not systemically racist.
Right.
Thank you.
This country has had problems in the past, which you all recognize. But what I said was policing is unique, and these are retired police officers. I'm not worried about them being indoctrinated like I would kids in school. And I said with policing, I do think it's important that police officers are taught why some communities, especially in an urban area like Charleston, still have some historic distrust for law enforcement. And there are some good reasons for that.
There are.
I mean, the black community in Charleston, I brought this up in the House floor, like the Block District was dismantled by a system of laws that were put in place by probably 100% white people back in the day. And that was a thriving, successful community, and we really did ourselves harm in this city. I wasn't alive then, but that community.
Unfortunately, I was, so I remember it.
Well, we had, if I have time quickly, the first black architect in West Virginia came out of the Block District. I think it was America's first black cardiologist was raised in the Block District. Leon Sullivan, who Leon Sullivan Way is named after, the first member of a Fortune 500 company board, was raised in the Block District. So we systemically segregated that community. It succeeded despite that. And then white people, sadly, by a system of laws, dismantled that community. And people still remember that.
Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
There's a documentary on YouTube you can watch.
I'll send it to her. I've watched it.
It was a pretty. People should watch it. It was a legitimately amazing community. Those people did amazing things there, and so grandparents, great grandparents, they still remember that.
Yeah.
And so I said that
I remember it.
I said there was a system of laws in place that harmed the black community in this city. It's a historic fact. I think that historically police officers should be taught what those systemic issues were. Not that police officers are currently systemic racist, because they are not.
But know the history.
But I said, know the history. I don't have a problem with that. And I knew that I was going to lose on that. Republicans,
Yeah.
some will get mad at me, and some did. One guy gave me a really dirty look after the floor session that he's Republican.
Not there to make friends.
Yeah, but but I said I think the
Right.
Democrats are right on
was
this one.
probably
Well, you've
from a
got to
rural
know
area, too.
you've got to know your audience. At least that reminds me of when you were so confused about why there was such hostility when you were talking about books at the Kanawha County school board meetings, and you had no idea about the textbook controversy back in '74. And I mean that people here
Remember
remember
it.
that.
I lived
Absolutely.
through it.
And
I
I-
lived
and-
through the bomb threat.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's important for you to know your
You
audience.
do.
So
Absolutely.
now
And I
we-
did learn that.
Now we probably better go take a break.
yes, now we can take a break. JB's got to go have Valentine's dinner with his love, and we will come back and talk a little bit about what were we talking about? Lincoln County,
Right.
and, I don't know. I have to look at my phone. I did make some notes. Okay. All right.
We don't have
Hey,
to give away
JB,
all of the secrets at first. Let
Thank
people
you
listen
for-
and find out.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And,
I want
yeah.
to tell people quickly, most of the legislators up there are nice people, and they're good people. And if you approach them, they actually want to do the right thing and talk to you. So you should do that and get involved and reach out to your legislator.
Yeah. I feel like people are
Absolutely.
becoming more active.
I've enjoyed the process. I've been going up there on the
Be
Mondays.
respectful to them. If
Absolutely.
you send an email that calls someone a POS out of the gate, they're probably going to delete it. So tell them what your issue is, and they'll
You attract
yeah.
more flies with honey.
Yeah, well, you
Is
don't.
that the-
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, just be sweet. Be sweet. It's Valentine's Day. Be sweet. All right, JB, have fun. Thank you
All
for
right.
coming in, and we'll be right back.
I love my wife.
Thank you.
The Scoop Squad Truth Pod would like to thank our sponsors. Those include Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, featuring auto, home, life, business, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. Pet insurance, you say? That's health insurance for your dogs or cats that covers special foods, illnesses, surgeries, and medication. They're on 16 Capitol Street in Charleston at 346-9181, or reach them at www.iigwv.com. Also by Jody's Mobile Services, offering steam cleaning, pressure washing, fleet washing, and auto detailing. We come to you. They're at 304-437-3164. And also by Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. Go to eggplantshop.com. Also by T-Graphics on the west side, 312 Buchanan Street, 345-4816. Go to tgraphics.com for screen printing and embroidery since 1984. Again at 345-4816.
Welcome back to the second scoop of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod, hashtag the only Charleston, West Virginia podcast that matters. And it is your Valentine's Day edition. And we just spent the last scoop talking with J.B. Akers, Honorable J.B. Akers, Delegate J.B. Akers of the 55th District here in Kanawha County. This is his first legislative session. And he is making himself known. It was awesome to listen to him today. There
There were some clips on the news, and he really sounded, even though it was edited down.
Yeah, JB is he's just an intelligent
Very
guy
clear-headed.
and very articulate and very he's a pragmatist. Like it's common sense politics really. I'm sorry, but Mike Pushkin and the Dems that I heard today are no match for a JB Akers. So,
And speaking of a match,
yes.
I want to talk about what a great match our sponsors are with us.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That was
We
great.
had Chris Walters on previously
Yeah.
at Integrity Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you get to hear the commercials, but just a nice guy.
Yeah.
And truly concerned.
You still got
about-
the hiccups?
I think I've got them all of a sudden. I don't know why.
It's
Anyway.
hiccups make me giggle. Anyway.
Oh, well. Anyway, try Integrity Insurance for home, health, auto, or pet insurance.
Yeah.
Also, keep some of our others in mind. Jody's Mobile Services. You can find him on Facebook.
Yeah, and Jody Pistori is also running for Lincoln County Commissioner.
Right.
But he also has a very successful business, fleet washing, power washing.
Once the dirt off this winter starts to drive you crazy, you're going to want to use his services.
Yeah.
Especially if you have fleets or buildings that just get dirty.
Right.
From the natural
The
winter,
elements.
The winter elements, right.
And then we've got Elise Payne. She just left.
Yeah.
But
that's where I get that's why I look so good, because that's where I get all
your
my
skin
Jack
is
Black,
glowing.
Men's
And
products.
he's still hiccuping.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, y'all.
I need a call from the IRS to scare me out of those or something.
But yeah, she's got everything. Oh, I need to mention that she got in the makeup remover towels.
I saw those.
Oh, they're
She had one in
awesome.
her purse.
She did. They're so soft. And if you
Maybe
get
it was
one,
supposed to be a surprise.
you do not need to put any soap or any cleanser on those makeup remover towels. You just wet it with hot water, wring it out, and it takes off all of your makeup, including waterproof mascara. And then you go to bed. You don't have to travel with, foaming face wash that can leak in your suitcase and all that stuff.
Bridge Road.
Yeah, Bridge Road Eggplant. And then we've got Claudette Hudson, who
Right,
has
from
T-Graphics over
T-Graphics.
on the west side.
And she's doing some political T-shirts and jackets. I saw an example of her work on a candidate yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Excuse me.
We're still hiccuping.
Now, that was a real cough.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm getting over allergies, so it's a little bit of blend. But anyway, she does great work.
She does.
On not only jackets and hats, T-shirts, polos.
And you're right. They are all of those sponsors are a great match for us because they like what we're doing here on the Scoop Squad. They like the
Right.
fact that we're bringing as much information as possible to Kanawha County and Charleston and the surrounding counties.
Absolutely.
Because you don't always get all of the information with the news stations and the live radio and all that. People don't have time to talk and get all the information out there. So we provide a service that really nobody else.
This is long form. Basically, think of this as long form radio.
Yeah. Yeah, and nobody else is doing it like we're doing it.
So we also want to thank Biggly Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street as well.
Yes. Yes.
And my
Okay.
voice may give out halfway through this thing.
Yeah,
So
if
be
just-
prepared to carry it on.
Oh, no problem. I can talk all day long. I talk to myself in the car all the time. I solve all the world's problems in my car.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm so smart. I think I
And you
am.
tell yourself that.
So I sound
that
smart.
helps you believe it.
I sound smart in the car. All right, tell us what's going on in Lincoln County.
Well, I mean, Lincoln County politics are just totally different than any other kind.
Yeah.
And recently, they have two magistrates. One of them, kind of more on the conservative side. She's been hounded out of office.
Wow.
And I'll just kind of read you the letter to the chief judge,
Okay.
circuit judge there in Lincoln County, Judge Jay Hoke.
The letter to the circuit judge from
Kim Clayton, who
from
recently resigned
the resigning
as magistrate,
okay.
and she felt like
she was bullied
as a
into
matter
it.
of her safety and her
Oh,
family
interesting.
safety.
Wow.
So I'll just read this.
Sure.
Since it's a public document. January 31st. It's with heavy heart that I am writing this letter after much consideration relating to events that have occurred that have been politically motivated, unethical, and violations of judicial rule. I'm resigning as Lincoln County Magistrate, February 2nd. She loves her job, she states, and served the people of Lincoln County. I've heard she's done a good job, and she's requested protection and was denied by the Lincoln County Sheriff. They've had threats and vandalism. And even Judge Hoke issued a letter of heightened alert that received no response from the Lincoln County Commission. So the political climate has made her fear for her safety.
Wow.
And I believe her because I know what it's
Yeah.
like down there.
Sometimes I worry about my safety here.
Right.
I'm in Kanawha County.
So, and it's probably because her husband's running for sheriff and not aligned with the traditional Lincoln County Democrats who've converted to Republicans. So they come by their house at night, blow the horns, harass them. The sheriff and the state police laugh about it. So the Supreme Court, is investigating. So they don't want to go on a podcast. They don't want to make it worse. And, I don't blame them.
Right.
So that's kind of where we are.
Interesting.
With that. There was also a case where the county clerk was arrested. It was on
Yes.
Channel 13.
Yes. For owning a daycare center where an 18-month-old escaped?
Yeah. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but it was trumped up charges by the sheriff, who really has no police training. But because she's on the other side politically from the sheriff and his cronies, they've trumped up some charges that are basically ridiculous.
On this woman who owns the daycare center where the baby got out?
Right, the baby got out. And after...
I saw the video footage. The baby wasn't out. I mean, the baby got out, but somebody was right there.
Yeah, people were right there to grab it. This is totally politically motivated. She was arrested. The daycare center director was arrested, and 2 employees.
Wow. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'd be upset if I saw that my 18-month-old.
Right. Well, this is a case where dogs have dug under the fence, and she's asked. They don't have an animal control officer there, so she's asked for relief from the sheriff about controlling dogs and so forth, and
has got no support.
No response, and then something like this happens conveniently. So,
wow.
You just can't keep up with all the dogs.
Well, I just have to say that I knew politics was dirty. I knew it was yucky, but I really had no idea just how filthy politics can be.
And interestingly,
and some
sheriff,
people don't mind to ruin people. They don't just want to ruin them politically.
They want to ruin their lives.
They want to ruin their lives. They're not happy with just beating them at the polls.
Oh no,
they got to destroy character and integrity.
Destroy the character, maybe destroy
and your
their
livelihood. Yes.
Interestingly, this sheriff, Gary Linville, is also running to be a magistrate. So and maybe that's a better position for him, although he has no police training, so he really shouldn't be a sheriff. Or he shouldn't act like an arresting officer, which he has done in the past. And,
right.
He's not certified to do that. I don't think it's illegal.
Right.
But really, you're setting yourself up for
some
lawsuits.
Yeah,
if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
A guy does a police chase, he's not certified. Good grief.
Right.
Think of everything that could go wrong.
That's right.
And the county is held
Speaking
liable.
of police chiefs, we still don't have one in Charleston.
No, not as of right now. As of this recording on Wednesday.
We do not. I don't know how many months that's been. 6 months?
Well, we did the podcast.
July.
The last
June,
podcast
July?
about it was August 16th.
Yeah.
Where we did a special edition.
We have an interim police chief right now, which is Chief Scott Dempsey. I did get a response to my FOIA. I sent in a
to get
FOIA.
the list of candidates.
Yes, I wanted. Let's see. What did I ask for in my FOIA to Charleston? I asked for the top 3 applicants chosen by the mayoral administration for the job of Chief of Police of Charleston,
and
West
by the
Virginia.
way, I asked a circuit judge if this was legal to withhold those names.
And
she
what
said
was
it's
the
illegal.
response? Well,
it's illegal to withhold those names as public record.
So I will tell you what Mr. Baker, the city attorney, said in response to the asking for the names of the top 3 applicants. He said that, where is it? In response to your FOIA request, the city has no responsive documents. So that was in response to asking for the candidates. Number 2, I asked for a copy of the treasurer's report for the city of Charleston for the months of December 21, 22, and 23. In response to that, he did attach the treasurer reports for those years. Number 3, I asked for a copy of the spending from the mayor's discretionary fund from the year 2022 through January 2024, and he sent me to the Charleston, West Virginia transparency website. So I haven't been
from
able
the auditor's office.
Let's see. In response, at this link, you will find. In response to your FOIA request, the city's OpenGov transparency website contains all information regarding revenues and expenditures of the city. In response to number 4, I asked for, what did I ask number 4? A copy of the report submitted to the Charleston Police Department Professional Standards Division on the Tyke Hunt Richie Bassford investigation, which I had heard was complete. That's what I heard. I heard that it was 400 page. Yes, it was rumored to be complete. And what was their response? We explicitly exempts from disclosure information of a personal nature, such as that.
Personnel.
It says personal, though. Personal nature, such as that kept in a personal, medical, or similar file in West Virginia Code such and such, further protects the personal information of law enforcement officers that are maintained by a public body in the ordinary course of the employer-employee relationship. Furthermore, this request seeks documents that are law enforcement records regarding an ongoing investigation and are maintained for internal use. I mean, that's just they're not going to give that.
No,
they're not going to release that report. So they could have saved me a lot of reading. Just said no. But anyway, that's it. That's what I got from the city. I wanted to also say that there was a meeting scheduled. There was a listening session scheduled for tomorrow on the size of council. There was a specific, there was a committee created to discuss the size of council and, shrinking it or.
And this council is unusual in its size for a town of this population. Excuse me.
Well, and I think that the consensus. I think that we could all agree that it's large. It's too large, but
too large for a town 4 times or 10 times the size.
But I don't think the argument goes. It seems like the argument goes straight to the at-large candidates. Like if you're going to eliminate positions, then clearly the at-large positions should be the first ones to go.
Right, because the ward representatives are reflective of the most local type of government.
And if you look at the at-large candidates, they mostly, historically have voted with the mayor, like Becky Sepperly, Jennifer Farr, Emmett Pepper. The list goes on and on. Caitlin Cook.
Most cities of this size would have 3.
So I don't think that it would be, and I don't think it would benefit the mayor to have that discussion because common sense going to say at large needs to go first. So this is what I think she will probably do. I think she will probably redraw the districts to either consolidate the wards so that she can possibly pit council people against each other. Yeah, I think it's been decided that that's not the way they're going to go. I mean, because they didn't say that the listening session had been rescheduled or postponed, just that it was canceled. Right. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, yeah, coincidental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so that's the second scoop.
Okay.
We're going to come back for a third?
We better.
All right, we'll be right back with the third scoop.
The Scoop Squad Truth Pod would like to thank our sponsors. Those include Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, featuring auto, home, life, business, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. Pet insurance, you say? That's health insurance for your dogs or cats that covers special foods, illnesses, surgeries, and medication. They're on 16 Capitol Street in Charleston at 346-9181, or reach them at www.iigwv.com. Also by Jody's Mobile Services, offering steam cleaning, pressure washing, fleet washing, and auto detailing. We come to you. They're at 304-437-3164. And also by Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. Go to eggplantshop.com. Also by T-Graphics on the west side. 312 Buchanan Street, 345-4816. Go to tgraphics.com for screen printing and embroidery since 1984. Again at 345-4816.
Hey, and it's the third scoop of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod, the only Charleston, West Virginia podcast that matters. We are here for you every week. Usually drops on a Thursday, sometimes a Friday.
If we have to have a special edition, we may move it around.
We've done that before.
Yeah, sometimes we've had to say, hey, we got to record on Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes things just come up that are super important that can't wait. Mm-hmm. I feel like
sometimes we have to do 2 in a week.
I feel like we could talk every day.
Well, there's stuff to talk about. I mean, this is an election year, and this is
Yeah.
an important election year.
Yeah, and in full disclosure, I have a daughter who is running for Kanawha County prosecutor. Her name is Morgan Switzer. You can find her at Switzer for Prosecutor on Facebook, and you can find her at morganswitzer.com. I just wanted to say that she's having an event this Saturday.
Down in St. Albans?
Down in St. Albans. If you know Morgan, if you know my daughter, this is the girl who, in her teenage years, like, she literally saw a wounded raccoon on the side of the road. And we warned her so many times, don't pick up wild animals. Like, this is not safe.
No, they can have diseases.
Just don't. And she didn't listen. And she stopped on the side of the road. There was a wounded raccoon. And she picked it up and she put it in her car, and she was going to rush it to the emergency vet. She put it in the back seat, and she told me that she had it in her car. I think she called me on her phone. But shortly after she put it in the car and started heading down the road, the raccoon came to life, and it hissed at her.
Oh, boy.
And it scared her. So she thought that raccoon was just very ungrateful at what she was trying to do for it. And so she stopped and let it out of the car. She has brought home baby deer. There's not an animal that my daughter doesn't love. But
good for her.
And she's always partnered with humane societies to foster and adopt. And so this is just really goes along with her personality. She's having a Switzer for Prosecutor. You get it? PAW event where she is partnering with the Kanawha County Humane Association. And she will be at the Loop parking lot in St. Albans this Saturday, February 17th from noon to 4. You can meet Morgan. You can donate to her campaign. You can bring food and supplies for the Kanawha County Humane Association. And you can adopt your new best friends. The first 3 adoptions are going to be paid for by Friends of Switzer for Prosecutor.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I really love her quote because Morgan's been on here a few times, and I've heard her speak, and she's my daughter. We talk about it all the time, but she's very passionate about magistrate court being the place where you can really kind of be familiar with the players and run into crimes like animal abuse and just those crimes that lead to bigger crimes. And this quote that she has here, it says, "Animal abuse will end when animal abusers are held accountable."
Well, and I think the laws need to be toughened on animal abuse.
Yeah, and they're just not being prosecuted in Kanawha County the way she would like. So that's one of her.
And usually people that abuse animals go on to
abuse
bigger
and hurt.
crimes.
Yeah, that's the point.
That should be a warning.
That's the point.
Like you got to pay attention to this guy.
And you've got to be swift and got to have appropriate consequences so that people remember.
So if you're going to bring supplies, they could always use food. They could use towels, cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
Even toys.
Food and supply donations.
Those animals could certainly
probably cat litter, stuff like because they have all
need a little
kinds of
fun in
animals.
their life too.
Yeah. So I told her when she came up with this idea, I told her that it was possum. Did you get it? PAW. Possum.
Well, anything's possible.
Okay, so that's one of your jokes. You gonna LOL me like I LOL you? He's not laughing. What else we want to talk about?
If I laugh at that, then I don't know what the
your
gates
hiccups might go away.
Might be.
If you laugh, your hiccups might go away. I'm trying to think. You got any other news?
We've got this is a primary election coming up.
Mm-hmm. How about the announcement that they're going to break ground for the sports complex in the Macy's building in April?
I kept waiting for it to be April 1st so that they could say
April Fool's.
Just kidding.
I mean, I've got a ton of council people that
I don't think it's on the 1st though.
There were several council people that texted me after that, and they're like, "What council hasn't even? We know nothing.
Right?
We haven't seen a feasibility study.
Council hasn't approved anything with this. How can you go forward?"
Yeah, I don't know. So they're just.
What are you going to break ground on? Do you own the property?
Exactly.
Yet? We haven't even torn
haven't
down the parking
purchased it
building. The
yet.
parking building was supposed to be torn down.
There are no specifics on how it's going to operate, like who it's going to employ.
Right.
I just don't know.
That's just more smoke and mirrors because it's an election year, as I was saying.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And this is a case where really most of the election results that mean anything are going to be held in the primary.
Right.
There are going to be seats. There are a lot of seats that will have no Democrat opponent. So
right.
Whoever wins the Republican primary will be the candidate. So that's the part you have to pay attention to.
How about the Target?
And Barbersville?
Crumbling in Barbersville.
Yeah.
I think that's a West Virginia water issue. Did you hear that?
I did not hear. I mean, I knew there was some. That property it's on, if you've been there, it's a little sketchy as far as how they.
The problem is
built that on a hillside.
Is rumored to have started with a water issue.
A water leak.
It just says water issue.
I haven't heard that part, but I've heard the part about the land just wasn't that stable.
Yeah.
And
that looks awful.
You talk about a situation that's all jacked up, but it probably needs to be at this point.
Exactly. All right. Well, I feel like it's the first time I've run out of words.
I think that would be a first.
We've got 5 minutes.
Well, we've got 5 minutes left.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about the election.
Election? Okay, election.
I do want to talk about the election because there are some cases where there are no opponents in the primary.
Mm-hmm.
Some cases, whether it's judge or magistrate. I think there's even one Kanawha County School Board seat that has no opponent. And I just encourage people to pay attention to these things.
And can I say something about that Kanawha County School Board vote?
Sure.
I think on the ballot, it tells you that you can vote for up to 3 board members.
Okay.
Okay. It doesn't
because they all have to come from different areas of the county.
But they're all listed under and so
but
you
those different sections. You can't have. Supposedly, you weren't supposed to have too many from each.
Well, here's the thing:
couldn't be elected.
You
from each
can
area.
vote for up to 3, but you do not have to.
No.
In fact, I might encourage you not to. I might encourage, if you don't know the other candidates, don't vote for them. Mm-hmm. If you feel very strongly about one that you want to win, vote for that one.
Right.
Vote for one. You do not have to vote for 3. You do not have to vote for 3.
I know one of the
school board members.
And I make no secret of my age. I'm over 60-something years old.
Yeah.
But one of my teachers is on the school board and is running again. So.
Oh.
Jim Crawford.
Yes. Oh, he's running again. He's on
so
ballot.
He's running again, and
I just wanted to tell people that you do not have to vote for 3.
You don't have to vote for the 3.
In fact, I would just encourage you to vote for
but
one.
I just want to. I'm not saying vote for him or vote against.
Right.
Just shout out that he's still involved in politics.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, still involved in education after all these years, and
education is
he's got to be over 80 years old.
It's political too.
Yeah.
I mean, the school board, it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but I feel like they vote pretty partisan.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's a couple activists on there that they vote for their agenda.
Oh, absolutely.
So, anyway, that's that. Anything else you want to say about the elections?
I really encourage you to look at all the candidates.
Yeah.
Go to their websites, go to their social media.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to see a list of all the candidates, you can go to the Secretary of State's office and you can search by county, by district, by town.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of towns will be having elections, like St. Albans and Dunbar, and they'll have multiple people running for mayor in those town elections. So just take a look at
Spend
each.
some time looking
at these people, because you're going to have to live with them for about 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, educate yourself as much as you can, as much as you have time for, to make an educated vote.
Right.
That would be my guess, or my advice, not my guess.
And there's 4 people running for county commission.
Okay.
2 Republicans, Dwayne Duncan and our
sponsor,
our buddy Chris Walters. Also, Kent Carper, who's been under a little bit of a cloud lately and has been in the hospital, and he's also subject to a federal investigation. And his opponent in the Democrat primary will be Natalie Tennant, former Secretary of State.
Yes.
I'm not making any judgments about that, but I just the conjecture is he going to be still running, when the primary occurs or after, or if he wins the primary, because he is under investigation, for sex acts here, plus other situations of a federal nature. And the follow-up, I feel like Foster Brooks,
You're making me laugh.
In the follow-up of that investigation. So, I think bets might be taken as to whether he's actually, still able to be elected by the time the primary and or the general gets here.
Okay. Well, next week, I'll just give you a heads up that we will have Chris Pritt in the studio.
Okay. I know Chris.
Yes,
He was going to run for Secretary of State. Now he's running for State Senate. Is that right?
Yes, against Eric Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he'll be in.
He's a delegate, House of Delegate, and a Republican.
Yes, he will be in to talk to us next week. And we'll also have Adam Knopf and Beth Kearns.
Well, there will be a city council meeting probably next Tuesday.
There will be a city council meeting next Tuesday because of President's Day.
Right.
Yeah. So
it'll be interesting to see if anybody brings up the canceled public meeting about size of council and why that happened, why that meeting was canceled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we will see you guys next. Well, we won't see you. We never see you.
Yeah.
One day you will. We see some of you out and about.
One day you will. We'll be able to do video.
Sometimes we see you out and about, and you say, "Hey, I love listening to your podcast."
I talk to people all the time, and I have no idea they're listeners. I'll be talking about something else in my line of work.
Yeah.
And I'll say, well, I really love the Scoop Squad. I'm a dedicated listener, and I'm thinking, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's awesome.
We love that.
There's people there you'll never meet or see. And,
that's right.
Thank goodness they won't see me, 'cause
well, they hear you hiccuping, so I don't know which is worse.
I don't always look my best after these shows, on a long day. But
well, that's going to wrap up the Valentine's Day edition of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. We are so thankful that you joined us, and we hope that you had a wonderful day full of love and cuddles. And
well, you'll hear this the day after, but you're probably making up for something you did stupid on Valentine's Day.
Says Ron, because we know he
because I'm here instead of home, on Valentine's Day.
That's right. Hey, there's plenty of time. All right, we will talk at you next week, Charleston, and that's going to do it for the Scoop Squad Truth Pod this week. Thanks.
If you would like to tie your business with this popular podcast, you can contact me, Ron Hughes, to advertise at ron.hughes, ron.hughes, at wvradio.com, or you could call me at 304-342-8131.
The Scoop Squad Truth Pod would like to thank our sponsors. Those include Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, featuring auto, home, life, business, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. Pet insurance, you say? That's health insurance for your dogs or cats that covers special foods, illnesses, surgeries, and medication. They're on 16 Capitol Street in Charleston at 346-9181, or reach them at www.iigwv.com. Also by Jody's Mobile Services, offering steam cleaning, pressure washing, fleet washing, and auto detailing. We come to you. They're at 304-437-3164. And also by Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. Go to eggplantshop.com. Also by T-Graphics on the west side, 312 Buchanan Street, 345-4816. Go to tgraphics.com for screen printing and embroidery since 1984. Again at 345-4816. Rebroadcast, retransmission, or transcription is not permissible without the expressed approval of Scoop Squad Truth Pod. Copyright 2024.